Got Your Back Pod Stream is brought to you by Mr. Dirk. From casual wear to suits and formals, Mr. Dirk helps you find the perfect fit with the right look for any occasion. Step up your wardrobe at mrdirk.com.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't trust a forward. Listen to my words tonight. Don't just fall in love with my face. I used to be somewhat of a big deal, wheeling, dealing, no bucket in the warm-up, people carrying my bags in. How many times do I have to tell you through text, let's talk about the PK? That is a dirty hit that needs a response. I like a stiff, stout pillow. We'd rather dress nobody than dress you.
The only thing I like better than easy points are free Slurpees.
Goalies embellish all the time. He tumbled over like he was hit by a Zamboni. Am I this good, or are we just winning by 7 goals, and that's why I'm out here? Just say, I know you're right, Struddy. Just get it out. I think I am the modern-day Ronnie Dangerfield.
Yeah, I get no respect.
And now, Weiss Johnson presents Struddy's World. Here's your host, honors graduate of the Art Vandelay School of Architecture, Jason Strudwick.
I believe it's Arthur Vandelay. Sir Arthur Vandelay. How's everybody doing today? Jason Strudwick here with you on Struddy's World. Jam-packed show today. Into every day, a little rain must fall. Zach Hyman out likely for the year. That's right, out likely for the year. The Oilers take a 3-1 commanding series lead last night against Dallas Stars. But like I said, a little rain falls in. We'll get it right from the coach's mouth right away here. The show is brought to you by our title sponsor, Weiss Johnson Heating and Air Conditioning. The summer weather's coming, and if you don't have an air conditioner yet, don't wait. Trust me, it is brutal when you don't have one. Weiss Johnson is your home comfort specialist, so give them a call and enjoy a summer with a brand new AC unit. Specialize in servicing your existing mechanical systems or installing new ones, visit weiss-johnson.com today. You want to have that for sure. And I'm back home. I made it home after my glorious trip to Turkey, getting a bunch of different looks at hair restoration, which I may still do this summer. I'm in the Adrenaline Diesel home studio, all new 24/7 mobile service truck, ready for roadside emergencies, scheduled repairs, and expert diagnostics anytime, anywhere. For service truck emergencies, call 780-907-1965, extension 119. There he is, Zubie, the voice and the face of the fan, a very attractive face. But man, we found out this morning about Zachary Hyman. We're going to get into all that with Brown. Rob Brown's going to join us. We got Darren Dreger and, of course, you on the stream. So keep those coming. We have a great stream already. But Zubie, that's a tough one with Zach Hyman going out. And we'll get into what that means for the rest of the lineup now.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I think it's funny to think about, a year ago we would have said, who's going to replace the goals? But now you're going to say, who's going to replace the hits? I mean, Hyman is just hitting everything that moves. And I think it's had a huge effect on their playoffs so far. And to see he's just committed to it every game. And I think they've reaped the benefits of that, as you guys have talked about before, softening up other teams' defenses as the series goes along. So I think he might be missed there more than anywhere.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Oilers been very physical, but he's been the leader of Oilers hits and the league hits. Well, let's get into it. And let's hear from the head coach brought in the digital soundbox, brought to you by our good buddies at Douglas Mattresses. If you're like me, you know there's nothing better than a good night's sleep after a long day. Your best sleep is just around the corner with every mattress there, including a free sleep bundle that includes 2 memory foam pillows, a complete set of luxury sheets, and more. Visit the Douglas Mattress store in Manchester Square here in Edmonton, or check them out at douglas.ca/GYB. Here is Chris Knobloch this morning at 9 a.m. telling Oilers faithful about Zachary Hyman, the bad news.
Zach's season's most likely done. He's getting surgery today, and it'll be a while, so we're not expecting him back for the playoffs.
Is it a wrist, a shoulder?
It's his, we'll just leave it upper body, yes.
Okay.
I watched the whole press conference with him, and he sounded very down. I mean, he lost one of his warriors, right? And his teammates, Shagar talked about seeing him get a hug from Leon Draisaitl. They probably knew or anticipated that it was something serious. So he's getting surgery right away here, and he'll be out for the playoffs. So He's out. The loss is going to be felt. Scoring, hitting, leadership, calmness, effort, all that stuff. But people have to replace them. So I jotted down some ideas of what potential lines we may have here, Zubie. So let's get to them and see what you think. We have Nuge at center
just before we do that,
yeah,
can you explain why they still won't give us any more than upper body? Does that give you a glimmer of something, or like what's the point if he's done? What's the point of still protecting that?
Yeah, that might be the case, and maybe they feel, or Knobloch feels that that's something that Zach should tell you himself, right?
Okay.
Like maybe maybe they have him roll out next week and have a converse with the teams, or with the media,
right?
But when I hear the word likely out, that makes me nervous. I think Oilers, we should park him to the side, Oilers fans, and think about he's probably not going to be back.
Right.
Okay, but we, unfortunately, next man up, Zach Hyman will not be competing in the finals, but other players will. The Oilers have great depth. We've talked about it. So I'm going to pretend that the Oilers are going 12-6, like any rational group of people would, not going 11-7. I've been arguing with Brownie and Schauger, but these are lines I have. I have Nuge, McDavid, and Perry. We've seen that line. I think that makes sense. The next one would be Kane, Draisaitl, and Kapanen. The reason I have Kapanen there is that he's getting more trust, it seems, from the coach, but also I want speed on that line. I want, all three are big bodies. I want a little bit more speed, so that's why Kapanen's there. And then I go Trent Frederick with Henrique and Jeff Skinner. That's right. Skinner makes his reappearance in this playoff round. I said he'd have a role to play. Now they have to play him. And then it wraps up with Paul Coldzin, Janmark, Arvidsson, a very hardworking. There's some tempo there, physical. So I think those four lines to me make the most sense heading into the next game. What do you think about those lines, Zoobs?
Yeah, I like them a lot. It's pretty close. I toyed with the idea too of giving Kapanen the promotion. I think for some reason, I guess you have Arvidsson and Podkolzin together. I still kind of see them with Leon. I really liked Arvidsson's first game back. So I'm kind of sticking, I guess, I like your first line. I love Perry up in that spot. I'd at least start Draisaitl with, I think Podkolzin and Arvidsson with their chemistry where you keep them together no matter where they are. So You had them with Janmark, right? I'd have them. I still like them with Leon, and then I like Henrique and Kane, and that's where I guess I'd put Skinner there because I don't think I want Skinner on the fourth line. I would also want to draw Jeff Skinner in. So to me, I'd put him there, and then that's alternatively that's a demotion for Kasperi Kapanen from me because I'd put him with Janmark and Frederick. Even though I love Kapanen's game, so I like the idea of him going up to the second line as well.
Lots of options there. Now, another option that there is out, the second line would be Reek on the wing with Kapanen and Draisaitl. And we saw that line last night.
Yes.
And I like that line, but you're taking out centers, and because now you'd have your four essentially top centers all playing on the top two lines.
Right.
So I'm guessing afterwards, and we'll get Brownie's thoughts on this momentarily. After that, then maybe Trent Frederick becomes a center along with Janmark. So you have Frederick, who hasn't played, I don't think, much center at all with the Edmonton Oilers, I remember, and Janmark becoming your other. So I think it's loading up too much up there. That is why I do not have I don't have Rico, my buddy Rico, on a winger spot, Zoobs.
Yeah, you've the strength of the forward group we've talked about so much is that strength down the middle. So yeah, I don't know if you want to. Right. You've already got, of course, Nuge, who can play center, playing wing. I mean, that's not even really a thought right now because he's been so good in this series. But yeah, I noticed that last night when they put Henrique up on the wing. Obviously, they were trying some things out too, but I prefer to keep him at center.
Here's a comment from Paige Shills. It's going to be Noah Phillip. He kills penalties. Interesting point. Now, Noah doesn't have a ton of experience as an NHLer, and he has zero experience in the NHL playoffs. So you're going to put him in to a situation that he hasn't had a ton of experience in? I mean, perhaps, but to me, it feels unlikely. I think it's Skinner, and I do think Skinner has a role to play. I just feel very, very strongly about that, Zubes.
Yeah, it does feel unlikely, but I understand the logic. Then because he's a center, very good on faceoffs, he could be your fourth line center. So that would allow you to move Henrique up like that. I guess that would be the decision. If you decide you wanted Henrique to play wing, then maybe you consider that. But obviously, it seems like a bit of a gamble with the lack of experience.
We welcome your comments all the time on the stream about Hyman, about anything, any questions you have for at the end of Ask Struds. We'll have Playing the Field. We'll get to some more Oilers talk and update you on some of the injuries around the Oilers and on other players in the league. And then get off the fence. This one's going to be a battle. Embellishment penalties in the NHL. We won't say which way we're leaning, but what do you think of them? How do you feel about them when they're called, when both sides get called? A penalty and an embellishment penalty. Zubie's passionate about this one, so we'll get to that one a little later. But keep those comments coming for Ask Struds, anything later on. We got Brownie here, buddy.
Brownie's here. Let's get to
Okay.
him.
Well, it's now time to get up to speed with our good buddy Rob Brown, brought to you by Timberhouse. If you're tired of those dull cookie cutter houses, Timberhouse is looking to shake things up. Their designs harness the power of natural light to brighten your days and lift your spirits. Because life's too short for ordinary houses and dull living. Let them build you a place where laughter and good times are part of the blueprint. Visit timberhouse.ca. And there he is, Rob Brown, all dressed up, heading out for a tea time momentarily, Brownie.
I do have one this afternoon. It will be my first golf round of the year, coming back from a broken thumb, playing a vicious sport of basketball. But yeah, I'm excited. My first time out in the sunshine on the golf course.
Dangerous. Well, it's sun shining out there, but unfortunately, it wasn't shining today on the head coach Knobloch when he spoke to the media just a couple hours ago, and he said it's likely that Zach Hyman's done for the season. Now, when your first response as a teammate would be what when you hear about this player?
Disappointment for him, more so than disappointment for the team. The Oilers. Everyone plays hockey for one reason, to win a Stanley Cup. The Oilers feel they have something special this year, and Zach Hyman's a big part of that, and he wants to be part of it. So I think there's just disappointment that he's not going to have an opportunity to finish what he started and what the team has started this year. So you're heartbroken for a huge part of your team who has done everything asked from him here in this playoff year. So yeah, you're just heartbroken and disappointed for the person, and that's Zach Hyman.
Brownie, obviously now they got to figure out the lines. Zach Hyman's out. Brown is out. Connor Brown's out. So I put together these lines. We touched on a bit last night, but I tweaked it a bit. McDavid with Nuge and Perry. I don't think that's crazy.
I agree with that one.
Then I have Kane with Leon and Kapanen. And then I have Trent Frederick with Henrique and Jeff Skinner, who draws in. In this scenario, I'm just going 12-6, just so you're clear. And then I have the partnership Arvidsson and Paul Colton with Janmark. Let me just give you my thoughts. I want to have some speed on each line. I want to have a big body on each line. And then I want to maintain my centers. You know, there was some good shifts last night from Henrique with Leon and Kapanen. But when you put Henrique up there and Nuge on the wing, you're taking two really good centers out of your system. So your thoughts on my lines and maybe what you would like to see tweaked or adjusted. Again, this is a 12-6 scenario, buddy.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I agree. You have to have Henrique as your third line center. If you move him up, you're leaving your bottom six barren of a centerman. Okay. Janmark's done a good job, but then you're bumping him up to third. And I heard you talking to Strudwick play, so you can't put it a guy. I mean, Dallas are fantastic on the draws. So you don't want to get caught out there with a Frederick taking a center or a draw after an icing. And then you got Florida coming up, who's got some fantastic centermen as well. So you don't want to get caught that way. So Henrique's got to play center. Yeah, I mean, is Jeff Skinner the guy? Is he coming in? It would not shock me. It would not shock me if it's Max Jones.
Max, okay.
Just Max Jones penalty kills. Jeff Skinner doesn't play on your power play. He doesn't penalty kill. He's strictly a 5-on-5 player that, let's be honest, the coaching staff has not shown a lot of love and trust for throughout the season. We've all thought he should play more, but the coaching staff, who gets to make that decision, doesn't. Max Jones does penalty kill. Max Jones bangs bodies. And what we're seeing when we play against, well, especially the next series, and we believe, and it's still a ways to go, but we believe the Oilers will move on against Florida. The Oilers are the bullies of the West. The Panthers are the bullies of the East. Who fits in a lineup better against Florida, Jones or Skinner? Especially on a third line. Like you look at the third line of the Florida Panthers. That's I screw his name up here. Luukanainen.
Yeah,
With
Listerine.
Lindell and Marchand. Like
Right.
that is to me, that's the best third line in hockey.
Yeah.
Who do you match up against them? Do you want Marchand lining up against Jeff Skinner? Or do you want him going nose to nose against Max Jones? So again, it's amazing, a loss of a player like Hyman and Brown, but you got to remember Brown will be back. So when Brown comes back, that changes everything as well. But in Dallas, it could be Skinner, it could be Jones. I don't know, but I do like your lines, and I do believe Henrique has to stay as center.
Any chance we see, or would you feel comfortable putting Noah Philp in the lineup?
Yeah, honestly, he might be in the depth chart ahead of Jeff Skinner, really. Okay. And the one thing that has been, and I know that texter I was listening to you off air here, Noah Philp can win faceoffs, and the Oilers can't right now. I mean, they can't. Dallas is dominating now. Again, the Oilers are 3-1 in a series that they're getting dominated in the center circle. Now, it's not the end all, but you would like someone that can win a faceoff at the right moment. As we saw at the end of, I think, period 1, when the Stars had their power play, 3 seconds to go, and they went straight back to Rantanen, and he got a good shot away. So I'd have no problem with Noah Philp coming into the lineup. But this is the first time, we talked about it last night, that there's some real coaching that has to come into play without Hyman and without Brown, 2 guys in your top 9.
Brownie, when you look at the Dallas Stars, I do feel that top line is just not getting enough done. How dramatic would it be for Pete DeBoer to dramatically kind of mix up his lines? We've seen it with Knobloch. He doesn't seem to be fearful of changing his lines significantly. Like, I'm not talking about tweaking one guy. I'm talking about wholesale change. How much would that upset a team? There's a lot of guys that play together quite a bit on the same lines all year.
Well, I think desperate times call for desperate measures. The Dallas Stars aren't getting anything done 5-on-5. I would throw Duchesne with Rantanen. Duchesne's been the one player that I think has been consistent every night. He's been snake bitten, but he's got jump. He's dipsy doodling in the offensive zone, but when he gives it to someone, they're not scoring. So to me, Rantanen right now is not getting the puck in a goal scoring situation. He's having to do all the heavy lifting and then try to create for himself. I would get Duchesne with him. Maybe Duchesne can get him the puck in a position where he can score. So I think they have to. And again, their fourth line has been their best line, their most consistent line. I think they at least there's a forecheck. So yeah, I think Pete DeBoer, you have to do whatever it takes right now, because they are 4 games into this series, and 5-on-5 they have not been good, and they need some contributions up and down the line. I love Wyatt Johnston. I do, as a player. I have not noticed him in this series. And that is a big offensive player that has gone very, very quiet for a Dallas team desperate for goals.
Yeah, it's amazing. You look at the talent on that group. There's so much. Even Tyler Seguin, who I think he has 2 goals in this series, but didn't really notice him
both in the first game,
right? Yeah, Jason Robertson, like he can score. This guy, for those who don't watch it, this guy can score. Seguin can score. Duchesne creates offense. Wyatt Johnson is just offense in a bottle. Like, there's so much, but I think you got to look at the Oilers and give them some credit as well.
Yep.
Cutting down their rush chances against. This is a team that loves to score off the rush. They're not, their first choice is rush, not so much ground and pound in the offensive zone. And the Oilers are above the puck. They're how many times last night, or even this whole series, have we seen them kind of, bring the puck across the middle of the Oilers and cough it up? We did in the first game. We haven't. So for Dallas, you almost have to ask them to shift their mindset and get into the more ground and pound half-court offense, that it isn't their first choice for scoring.
Well, I agree. I'm shocked at the lack of physicality by the Dallas Stars up front. Like, none. Jamie Benn, and we talked about it a bit last night, Jamie Benn in the first period, Darnell Nurse had the puck and Jamie Benn was on the forecheck, and Nurse moved it, and Jamie Benn turned away. This is a guy that knocked Hintz out of a game and a half. How Benn doesn't finish that check. The Oilers defense has played very well, but they've never really been under duress in this series because there's been no physicality from Dallas. None. The only two players that hit are on their back end, number 5 and number 6 defensemen, Bichel and Petrovic. And they've hit, and they've been good in that role. But that's not, they're not consistent players because they're 5-6 defensemen. And that's not on the forecheck. The Oilers defensemen are not having to, there's no fear of going back and getting the puck and getting run over. Whereas the Dallas defenseman and the Vegas defenseman and the LA King defenseman, every time they made a play, they got hit every single time. So now you're forcing your plays, you're rushing your plays. The Oilers defensemen can take time and space and make the right play. That's why it's so easy for them to get out of their own zone.
What do you got, Zoops?
A couple of interesting thoughts here on the stream I thought we could get to here. Sailor says, is there a chance the Oilers go 11-7 and let Stetcher play forward? I believe he played right wing for Vancouver for a few games and would also be insurance for Ekholm if he gets hurt again. That doesn't seem like this coach's style, but do you think there's any chance of that, Struddy?
Yeah, I mean, with the injury to Hyman, I think everything's open. So I think the door is creaked open for the 11-7. I do agree with that, but I do feel strongly about the rhythm this group is in. I don't want to upset it by going with 7. So I think it's either 6 or 6. But I also think with this 3-1 lead, maybe keep him out, right? Because we don't know where he's at. Is he 70%, 80, 90, 95? Like, we don't know where he's at. So Brownie, it's with the information I have now, if I believe that a couple more days is good for him, Ekholm that is, I keep him out and roll with this 6 and bring someone else in.
Well, yeah, again, without knowing Ekholm, I can't really chat on that. But if Ekholm plays and you feel comfortable that he's playing, either Stetcher plays as a 7th defenseman or you bring a different forward in. You don't keep Stetcher in a game to play forward. So Stetcher plays and you roll 7. And Leon and Connor and Hyman and Nugent Hopkins can all double shift. Or if you don't want 7 defensemen, then Stetcher's out and you put a forward in. You don't put a defenseman up, play forward, and in a hockey game in the playoffs. That's you either roll 7 defensemen or you play 6 defensemen and you bring a different forward in.
One more, Soups?
Yeah, one more. And we haven't really talked about this, but I did see some people breaking it down on Twitter, on the Twitter machine last night. Jameson Dorsing, did you think Marchman's hit was dirty? He does jump. There's a little jump. He's certainly not going after the puck. What did you guys think of the contact, or just a fluky play, Brownie?
Fluky play. I mean, if we go through every Oiler hit over the course of the series, there's a lot that are late. There's a lot where guys leave their feet, or their feet leave the ice. That one was for Schauger. There's some that were from behind. No, it wasn't dirty. In all honesty, he missed Hyman. He was trying to hit Hyman and missed him. And it just completely random bad luck. Just bad luck that he got him in the worst possible spot for Zach Hyman.
100%. Yeah, it happens all the time. So unfortunately, this one results in a bad injury, and it's going to hurt the Oilers. Brownie, thanks for that breakdown. We'll be anxious to see what they do with their lines tomorrow in Dallas to try to wrap this bad boy up.
Well, I appreciate you having me on this Struddy's World. I didn't even know you guys had another podcast. I thought it was just the one that we did together. So I can't wait to see Brownie's Globe or something like that real soon.
Brownie.
So
well, we turn the segments. We turn the segments into shows, so it'll be Brownie points the show, and then later on there'll be Zubie's wrestling advice or whatever.
So this obviously is the first show ever, since this has been hidden from me for a long time. This is the first ever. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for joining
episode.
us.
All right,
have a good round. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, sounds good, guys.
Great, Rob Brown. Okay, let's check out here for a second. We're going to come back. Darren Dreger will join us, talk some about the Florida and Carolina Zoobs, and then coaching vacancies. Can you believe it? There's still 3 teams without a coach. Maybe a former Oilers coach is getting a job out east. We'll get to that next with Darren Dreger.
The Hot Honey McCrispy is so back at McDonald's with juicy 100% Canadian raised seasoned chicken, shredded lettuce, crispy jalapenos, and that completely craveable hot honey sauce. It's a sweet heat repeat you don't want to miss. Get your Hot Honey McCrispy today. Available for a limited time only at McDonald's.
If you're considering a vinyl fence, don't be fooled by cheap marketplace imitations. Get top quality vinyl fence from a trusted company with 20 years in the industry. With locations in Calgary and Edmonton, check out dlrvinylproducts.ca.
Specializing in heavy-duty commercial truck powertrain repair, performance, tuning, and part sales, Adrenaline Diesel's professional team is ready to assist you with all of your needs, from the simplest oil changes to engine conversions, overhauls, and engine modifications. Featuring an all-new online parts store and machine shop to manufacture, replicate, or repair parts, visit adrenalinediesel.ca.
Welcome back to the show. A quick reminder, Strudwick is brought to you by our good buddies at WeissJohnson.com. And we got to let the jingle play. Roll it out. If you need it. They need it. It's been a tough day. This guy never has a bad day. Our next guest, time for Struddy's Buddy, brought to you by HSC Core Services. If you're a small to medium-sized business, HSC Core has your back when it comes to health and safety compliance. From creating and managing a tailored health and safety program that meets all legislation and core requirements, HSC Core supports clients' operations every step of the way. Visit www.hsccore.com. That's hsccor.com for more info. Gee, are you going golfing too, Darren Dreger?
Well, you just mentioned that I never have a bad day, and I'm planning. I was hoping to play on Friday. We have a tee time booked, so I've done zero practicing. So I thought, you know what, I got a little bit of time here this morning. I'm going to head to the local course, Royal Ashburn, get some practice in, and see how it goes. And Struddy, I'm at that age, man, where everything you do, you've got to stretch before you do it. And I mean, tying my shoes, I need to stretch before I bend over. So I guess I didn't stretch well enough. And about 3 swings in, man, I pull a Rashog and I yank something in my back. So I go from good intentions of practicing to make an appointment at the local chiropractor, and I'll be in the office getting straightened out at 4:30 Eastern. So that's how my day is going.
That sounds like a fun start to the golf season.
We'll see.
The Carolina Hurricanes held off on their golf season by getting a win the other night, and Allport winning the game 4. This is what I feel about the Carolina Hurricanes, Dregs. I think that they play so hard. They play playoff hockey all year. They can't find another gear. They don't have another gear. You look at other teams like the Oilers or Panthers or Stars. It feels like they elevate in the playoffs. Have they, or are they able to elevate in the playoffs, or going from game 4 to game 5?
I mean, for me, it's a stretch now, and I, if they were playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, which they are not, in the Eastern Conference Final, maybe I'd have more wiggle room and allow for that to happen. That's not being disrespectful to the Carolina Hurricanes. They're a very good team, as you've established here. And they're almost robotic under the coaching of Rod Brindamore and how they approach, especially up front. And they needed like an all playoff sort of game, which they got from Freddie Anderson the other night to stave off elimination. I just look at the Florida Panthers, and I don't see a lot of weakness. I just don't. So I don't think it's going to matter. Carolina can throw another terrific game at them. Freddie Anderson can stand on his lid again. I just don't think, given the experience of the Florida Panthers, they're going to allow this to get into that game 6, game 7 territory. So with all due respect, again, to the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm not feeling it, man. I think Florida is going to take away their opportunity. I think they're going to swarm them, as they do, both in the offensive zone and establishing their forecheck, but also in the defensive zone. So it does not. And if I'm wrong and this thing goes 6, I'll admit it the next time I'm on the show, but it doesn't feel that way given the strength of the Panthers.
Are the Florida Panthers D better this year with Seth Jones than they were last year with Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
Yeah, I think they are. And you know what? It's an excellent point that you bring up, because look, we know that it's on the players this time of year. The players are out there. They're the ones that have to execute. They've got to adhere to the detail, all the blah, blah, blah stuff. And legitimately, the coaches, yeah, they're making tweaks during off days and whatnot. But in game, unless you're responding to an injury or something like that, you're really just opening doors. Again, with all due respect. So then I look at Bill Zito, the general manager, and I don't know where you had Seth Jones on your must-have list. But the Seth Jones that we saw and watched play for the Chicago Blackhawks is not the same guy. And obviously all he wanted was and needed was opportunity. But that speaks to the pro staff, the scouting staff of the Florida Panthers, and the conviction of Billy Zito to say, okay, well, we're going to give up a pretty decent first-round draft pick. Should be in 2026. It's conditional. It can shift. We're going to give up an unproven but a decent prospect goaltender in Spencer Knight. And we're taking on a contract in Seth Jones that, okay, there's a little bit of money retained, but it is a big one. It's a big one. What is the guarantee that he's going to step into that lineup and be as good as he is? And he has been lights out good. So I wonder now, if we fast forward a little bit, whether or not, bringing in Seth Jones into the equation, maybe that gives them a little bit more ammo and firepower when the offseason kicks in. Right. So that, you do have an educated financial decision to make. Maybe you do give Sam Bennett one more crack. Here's 8 million, here's 8.5 times whatever the term is. We want you to stay because most nights you're the head of the snake. Sorry, Aaron Ekblad, it's coming at your expense because we now have the depth. But they've made some real strong additions and decisions on that back end. Like, I didn't know that Mikkola was that good. I really didn't. Gus Forsling, I mean, just hockey DB, this guy, anybody listening, and the path that he had to go through to get to the Florida Panthers. So the front office of the Panthers deserves a ton of credit for what they've put together here.
Yeah, Nico Maklas, I think he just keeps improving. He's done really, really well.
Yeah.
Still three teams looking for a head coach. Former head coach Jay Woodcroft is out there available. The Bruins, Seattle, and Penguins. Are any of those teams on his, or are they, I guess, is he on their radar?
Well, he was deep in the mix, I know, with the Pittsburgh Penguins and Kyle Dubas. And whether or not he's a finalist, as we like to say, I'm not entirely sure. But I know that he was heavily involved, and he interviewed elsewhere. And by all indications, I mean, Jay is a good interview. And we heard this last year when teams were going through their coach interviews and how close they came. But sometimes you can be a victim of circumstance, and maybe that unfortunately happens to Jay again here. So when I look at Pittsburgh, at least what I'm hearing, I know that Woodcroft was in the mix there. Mitch Love is getting a ton of love. He's a finalist with Seattle. The Boston Bruins like Mitch Love. The Pittsburgh Penguins like Mitch Love of the Washington Capitals. Lane Lambert of the Toronto Maple Leafs came in late in the process. He too is a finalist with Seattle, I think with Love. And then I look at the Boston Bruins, and Marco Sturm's name has been out there. Love's name has been attached to the Boston Bruins. So those three teams are into the final stages. But Struddy, I wonder, if you've waited this long, and it's always nice to have your head coach in place before the draft, right? And lots of teams right now, the non-playoff teams, are in their pro scouting meetings and they're prepping for the draft. But I look at some of the benches, the Oilers bench included. I see a guy like Glenn Gulletson, right? If you're one of these teams that are in the market for a head coach, and you like the guys that I've mentioned, I should throw DJ Smith out there as well. David Quinn is another guy specific to Pittsburgh who's got some attention there. Why wouldn't you wait a little bit longer and have a conversation with Gully as an example, who's been a head coach a couple of times? And that could be what some of these teams are waiting for. But Mitch Love seems to be the main denominator in terms of the three teams still in the market.
One last one for you here. Conn Smythe Trophy. Do you have someone in mind or a group of players? Like, has anyone stepped way out to be the clear-cut favorite of these Final Four?
I mean, it's a tough one, and that's a good problem to have because, we've seen a lot of individual play, but we've also, if we get into the Oilers, I mean, of course you could conjure up, Connor McDavid, but the point production has been there. Is it there on a consistent basis? Well, I mean, Yeah, for me, it certainly is. And he's in the conversation. Mikko Rantanen, the push that he had, certainly in game 7 against Colorado, the series that he had against Winnipeg, but he's been quiet. He's been quiet in this series against Edmonton. There are a number of guys that I think still are in play. Sam Bennett, with the Florida Panthers, has been lights out good in that series. So I don't have a clear-cut favorite just yet. I don't. What about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, man? I mean, consider if the Oilers are to win this series and Nuge keeps playing the way that he's played, including these multi-point efforts, I mean, that's how you play yourself into that conversation, isn't it? So I don't have a clear-cut favorite. Do you? Do you have a guy that stands out?
Bouchard, maybe. Bouchard is.
There's really another one. Sure.
He's been really good. And I think it's healthy that we're probably going to go to the final with it kind of up in the air. And I think that makes it exciting for everyone involved.
I'm with you.
All right, Dregs. Well, ice that back down, or heat. Is it heat then ice and ice and heat? I can't remember, but you'll sort it out. You're a true pro.
I'll be twisted in a pretzel in 2 hours from now, and hopefully something just cracks. And I've got the relief I need. But golf is probably out for Friday, so that's what I've got.
Good luck.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Good luck, buddy. Thanks, man. Enjoy the game. Darren Dreger for our good buddy. Struddy's buddy. Yeah, interesting. Do you have a Conn Smythe favorite, Zoops?
Not a favorite. It feels to me like if the Oilers, if the Oilers win the cup, I think it kind of will have to be Connor McDavid. And I feel like for that to happen, he'd assert himself in the finals to a point that he'd become the clear choice. But right now, I would probably lean Connor right now, but no, there's a bunch of good choices.
Lots of good options. And I like that. I like going into the final round. We're assuming it's Florida Edmonton. I like that. Let's see what happens.
I can't stand when at the midpoint of the playoffs when people talk about Conn Smythe when there's still 4 teams left and only one of them's going to win. And we start. I mean, I shouldn't when the second round finishes.
Right.
The talk that always drives me crazy is like how you're throwing out all these guys that aren't even going to be in the finals, let alone win the cup. But it's worthy of discussion at this point for sure.
Because we're close. We're really close. We're one away for each team. Let's duck out here. When we come back, we'll get into playing the field. We'll get you some more Oilers information, Oilers updates, and then football. Aaron Rodgers, of course. We'll be right back.
Join over 250,000 Canadians who have upgraded to Canada's best mattress. Douglas is proudly made in Canada and ships directly to your door for free. Douglas is easy to set up. Enjoy perfectly balanced comfort and an easy-to-clean machine washable cover. Get a free sleep bundle with your Douglas mattress. Try risk-free for 365 nights. Get your Douglas mattress today.
Dennis here from Weiss Johnson. Are you looking to get into the trades or have a kid graduating high school wondering what to do? Weiss Johnson is looking for career-minded people to work for us. Opportunities truly are endless. Become a service technician, gas fitter, refrigeration technician, install residential or commercial heating and plumbing systems, fireplace installations or service, duct cleaning. We are the company where you can learn all aspects of the trade and pick which career path to take. We have an awesome benefits package and offer school reimbursement too. Visit wjcareers.com today.
For over 60 years, Belvedere Golf and Country Club has delivered a high-quality membership experience to Edmonton and area. And now it's even better. Drainage and irrigation improvements in 2024 have taken course conditions to a new level. This commitment to long-term sustainability means exceptional playing conditions all season long. Belvedere's tee sheet availability is unmatched, so join now and experience golf the way it was meant to be played, on your schedule. Visit belvederegcc.com today.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on your lunchtime. Jason Strudwick here with Chris Zabunia. Now time to play the field. Brought to you by Play Alberta, the official gambling partner of your favorite Alberta sports team. Whatever jersey you wear, Play Alberta is rooting for you to have fun. Bet on your favorites, get in on odd boosts, make the playoffs more interesting. Get a $50 free bet this month by depositing with code GYB05 at playalberta.ca. If you're just joining us this morning, Chris Knobloch revealed that it's likely that Zach Hyman's done for the season. Didn't reveal the nature of the injury, but it is upper body. He also spoke about Connor Brown. Now, Connor Brown was injured last game on a hit, and he said he will not play this next game, game 5. So that's another episode. No Zach Hyman, no Connor Brown. That's 2 right wingers out of your lineup. They'll have to figure out who to bring in. We kind of went through it earlier. I do think it'll be Skinner, but there's a lot of options there. So Connor Brown sounds like he will come back, but it won't be back for game 5. There you go. Next thing, Knobloch made some interesting comments. We know at the end of the year, Zubie, they had a lot of injuries and guys were covering. Whether it's Connor or Leon, all these guys, no one was seemingly in a rush to get back. And we kept talking about, are they that hurt? Are they going to be healthy? Well, Knobloch kind of opened up a little bit, opened the crack pulled back the curtain a little bit. So let's hear again in the digital sound box brought to you by Douglas Mattresses, Chris Knobloch talking about kind of their approach to playing on the road and then not bringing everyone back until they're healthy at the end of the season.
I think all year we've been a pretty good team on the road, and our home record to our away record is almost identical. And we talked about those last few games, in April, that we were missing some guys, significant guys, and our record probably wasn't going to be what we anticipated it to be. And losing a few more games was probably going to cost us home ice advantage. But we weren't really pushing to get guys back in the lineup that much because we felt that we can win on the road.
So Zoobs, there he is. This team has shown they can win anywhere. They could win a game on Mars. They don't care. So it's clear now that they were just like, screw it. Let's just get everyone healthy. Don't worry about the record. And we're going to get organized in the first round. It took them 2 games and they got organized and went through it. But I love hearing that from Knobloch, just calling it like it is.
Yeah, it's dusty on Mars. I think it would be troublesome, but I do agree largely. That's kind of like the ice they'll have in Florida, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that is really interesting insight because that clip continued on. I ended it there. He even specifically said the words, "We were okay to lose a few games late if that's what, if that was the result." So, and obviously it looks like that way of thinking has paid off. And the crazy part is whoever wins the West has home ice in the Stanley Cup Finals anyway. So they're even, if they make it, they get this done. They're playing 4 out of 7 in Edmonton anyhow. So that was a gamble, but obviously a calculated one. It seems to have paid off.
It's interesting. 2 things. One, if game 7 was last year in Edmonton, do the Oilers win it? I'm sure that's something that people, would have been wondering if there's no rematch here. And 2, the rest the Oilers can get from having a relatively short series in this round and last round would be wildly important. Wildly important. I know Florida too, but these would be so important because their last round was 7 for the Florida Panthers. Right. Speaking of the Panthers, they're getting some healthy players back. According to Dan Rosen, today I was reading, Dan Rosen of the NHL says Sam Reinhart, Nico Mikkola, and Darren Dreger are all expected to play tonight. They all missed game 4. Now, Sam Reinhart, goal scorer, good 2-way player, really important player for them. He's back. Darren Dreger is more of a depth player, plays with energy. And then Nico Mikkola is a D-man, I think, who continues to elevate his game. And big guy. So those 3 guys are getting healthy. That's a big thing for them, Zubie. And with an eye toward the final, no Hyman, those 3 guys coming back, that's a pretty big deal for the Panthers.
Yeah, when we talk about all the, options of when you might or might not play Matthias Ekholm for the Oilers, you wonder, looking over there, how cautious they were being in game 4 and saying, let's see if we wrap this thing up. And now thinking, like you said, with an eye to the finals, maybe trying to get it done, thinking maybe there's a couple more games still coming in the Edmonton-Dallas series and thinking we got to get these guys in and get this over, get our best guys out there. Yeah,
I think it's a race to get them done. Because I think it was Shaga that said last night, if they finish soon, or no, Gregor maybe told me this, but if they finish soon, they could start next Wednesday, June 4th.
Okay.
Zubie, we're shifting gears now, getting into the football world and the seemingly endless parade of quarterbacks trying to find new homes.
Yeah, it's been the quarterback carousel seems, I guess, to happen every offseason. But this year has been very strange and held up even more so than in previous years by one Aaron Rodgers. We want to look specifically at the Pittsburgh Steelers because there's rumors are still persisting that he's going to go to the Steelers. Well, Steelers great Hall of Famer, 4-time Super Bowl champ, I believe Terry Bradshaw is not a fan of the Steelers waiting out Aaron Rodgers. He said, quote, "That's a joke. That is just a joke to me. What are they going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California, go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." So it's a very unusual situation. You know, the Steelers went from last year having Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, guys with, either great pedigree or still possibly great potential, like two bigger name quarterbacks. I think the Steelers just re-signed Mason Rudolph. That's their starting quarterback as of right now. Their quarterback depth is Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback depth chart right now. It's been an unusual offseason. My Seahawks traded DK Metcalf there because Metcalf wanted to, play in a better situation, have a chance to win. And then they traded George Pickens. They were supposed to have the best 1-2 wide receiver combo. They ship him out, and that's what's left in Pittsburgh. It's crazy what's going on there, Struddy.
It's absolutely nuts. And, I look at DK Metcalf, who's a genetic freak. I mean,
Yes.
That guy's an amazing athlete. For him to leave one situation, that's okay. To go to another situation that may be just under okay with the quarterback situation, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I always wonder when I think of players moving on, I want to move on to something different. Well, is it really better? Because we've seen a lot of cases where it wasn't better. Now, sometimes it's been better, like Zach Hyman coming to Edmonton. It's been great for him and for the team, but it doesn't always work out that way. And Aaron Rodgers, maybe they know already that he's coming or not coming, but just settle it. Just agree, get it done. Maybe he doesn't want to do the offseason workout, Zubie. Maybe it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and then and again, maybe the reason Metcalf would even agree to go there is because maybe that's known. Maybe it is known that Aaron Rodgers will be signing there, but they just can't announce it. And it could be very well tied to that union stuff. He doesn't want to do the OTAs, so they hold off on it. Yeah, it's a good point.
But one final thought on that. If my quarterback doesn't want to come in for the offseason workouts to a new team, it's not like he's been there for 10 years. Do you want that quarterback? I think that's a fair question, right? He's great. He's been great and he knows the game, but man, I want him there. I think you got to build the team chemistry that way. So, although I guess he's not the first player not to be at every off-season workout.
I guess so, but come and walk through it, like you said, and meet the guys, and just it doesn't seem like that much to ask, but
yeah, he's too busy.
Very busy.
All right, that was
ayahuasca and whatnot.
100%. That was playing the field. Now time to change our attention because it's time to get off the fence. Brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. As Alberta's #1 vinyl product supplier, DLR offers top quality materials to build a fence or deck that won't rot, fade, or fall apart. If you need a skilled contractor to take care of the job or prefer a DIY approach, DLR can help set you up with all you need, Canadian owned and operated, with locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Visit them today online at dlrvinylproducts.ca. Zubie, let's do this, buddy.
Well, Struddy, I think my topic sentence here is that two things can be true at the same time, right? The Seinfeld finale was not a great Seinfeld episode, but it was an appropriate conclusion to the characters. They got their comeuppance. We got to run it back with all these other characters we had seen throughout the series. So it was an appropriate conclusion, but it wasn't a great Seinfeld episode. So two things can be true. I've been seeing lots of hot takes this week on the Twitter machine telling me that there should never be a penalty and an embellishment penalty called on the same play. Now, I completely disagree. I think it's great. I would like to see that embellishment penalty called more, to be honest. I feel like the officials right now, things are very reactive the way they have to call the game. They're almost not, and to their credit, because with all of the replays and all the things that are now reviewable, I think it's gotten harder for them to just call the game because they're thinking about replays or what can be reviewed or maybe not. So it feels to me like what they're watching for is the head whips and people shaking out their wrists and arms instead of being able to just call the game. So I feel like you could start to minimize some of those big overreactions if you called that embellishment as well. And I'd like to see it because it just feels like guys are doing things to get that call so often, Struddy.
I love it. So I'm 100% with you, as Shagar loves me to talk about 100%.
Yeah, you're welcome
I would
to do
say
it.
this. I would say this, though. This is my suggestion. I don't like players trying to get calls, trying to sell calls.
Right.
You know, we saw the other night with Florida Panthers, Kachuk kind of got wrapped up and he went down fairly easily and they called both. This is my suggestion. If you truly want to get rid of embellishment, you only call the embellishment. You don't call the original thing. I think you have to embarrass. You have to call out those that are doing those things, or the head throw back, my hand, or whatever, you know, or they go down too easy. Call it so that they are the ones that get embarrassed, because that skate from the penalty box back to your bench and your buddy's looking at you like, really? You dove? So let's call what is embellishment. To me is another word for diving. And you're diving for Team Sweden, and you're falling down on purpose, or you're reacting. So I think you need to come down hard and you need to say, you're getting the penalty, not the person who had the original infraction. If there was one actually.
Right. A good old fashioned triple Lindy dive. The problem I see with that as being that then you almost need to add a review in, because that's such a big swing to make that call in real time. That's what I think I like about the embellishment in addition, is that you can kind of send a message without you've just taken a power play away from someone rather than doing that big of a swing. I feel like they could get the message across with just that and more of that. They don't call it enough. You see embellishment all the time, and not to be a homer here, but we know that I am a fan. Could you imagine if Connor McDavid, and I'm sure there are Dallas and LA and probably Vancouver fans who think that he does act, but could you imagine for all the sticks he takes on every shift, every drive to the net, every time he gets knocked down and jumps right back up and keeps going? Like if Connor wanted to embellish, now I'm not saying he'd get the call, but he could embellish once a shift, like without question. So I feel like calling that second penalty would just take a little bit of the head snapping and the diving and the shaking out. It might take some time, but boy, I'd like to see them call it more often.
So would you then make it 4-on-4 or 5-on-5?
I don't know.
If you have the choice.
If I have a choice, I guess 5-on-5. I think I'd keep it 5-on-5 because you could have teams trying to. I'm trying to think of the logistics of it, but I feel like not put themselves in a position to take advantage of 4-on-4.
Let me throw another idea. What if they did this? Any embellishment call is accompanied with a 10-minute misconduct. So it doesn't hurt your team, but you have to sit there. So maybe I backtrack on the fact that your penalty is not called and my embellishment is. We both get called, but the embellishment is automatically a 10-minute misconduct.
Holy cow. I mean, that could really, I mean, that would hurt. that would really hurt as much, if not more. But I like that idea of that you might have a little bit in your back pocket if you were wrong. But I mean, you could take you'd have Matthew Tkachuk sitting for 10 minutes. I mean, that is a huge hit to your team.
100%. I think more than I think about it, because I want the player that embellished it to be called out. That's how you get these things. You know, we talk about headshots. Think about when Raffi Torres is getting Matt Cook and these massive suspensions. You're calling the player out. You're saying, hey, this is unacceptable. So, you know, for a while they used to have for diving, you get a fine, and then they put the list in the dressing room and guys that laugh about it. But I'd be so embarrassed if my name was on that list. I would never want to be. And I remember my teammate Sean Avery had when I said he was laughing. I'm like, buddy, that's embarrassing. I would never want to be known as a diver. So if you're calling guys out for that reason and identifying it's this guy dove, embellished. I think that's the way of getting it out of our game, because we don't want it in the game. And we want to call names. You want people, that's how you change behavior. You call names out, make them change.
Or you get the 2 and the 2, and whoever embellished gets their picture up on the Jumbotron with like embellisher, diver written across the giant text. Really is the humiliation, the shame effect. Yeah.
Shame. All right. That was Get Off the Fence. Thanks for all the comments on there. And I'll get to one here really quick from Just Steve, our buddy. Sneaking a Seinfeld reference in during a discussion about NHL embellishment is a special skill indeed. I agree.
That's on my resume under special skills.
Dallas Scarlett says, I like that idea, but imagine getting the embellishment call wrong. I hear you. I hear you. From Jameson Dorr, what happens when they aren't diving and the ref makes the wrong call? Well, that's fair.
And that's kind of what I like about the 2 minutes and 2 minutes is at least you haven't submarined that team or that player in a bigger way. You've just kept it even. That's the toughest thing about, and probably why they don't call it more, but I wish they did.
I'm with you. Now it's time to ask Struds. Brought to you by our good buddies at McDonald's. Hot Honey McCrispy. The Hot Honey McCrispy is back at McDonald's with 100% Canadian seasoned chicken, shredded lettuce, crispy jalapenos, and their craveable honey hot sauce. It's delicious. It's the perfect balance of sweet and heat. Get another taste of the Hot Honey McCrispy today. Only available at McDonald's for a limited time, so we got to get over there quick and get those in us. Zubie, what do the people want to know?
I had one, and it's the crispy jalapenos that make it. It's
so good.
It's very good.
So good.
Okay, Struddy, your rally scarf is here on the chat. Struddy's rally scarf wants to know, are there concerns about all the posts that Dallas have hit? Skinner was late on a lot of those shots, which means the shooters missed, and not that that is all Skinner gave to shoot at. I'll push back on that. Other than the Rantanen one, I think in game 3 on the power play, I feel like Skinner's not giving them much on the posts that I've seen, but that's the one that comes to mind of the one that certainly was a goal if Rantanen gets it an inch closer to the net, Struddy.
Yeah. I mean, you do, when you hear the post, it makes you a little bit nervous for sure. Things tighten up. But, I think last night they're shooting to try to be perfect. And, you're shooting. I remember Joe McGinley told me, like, you don't need to shoot for the tiniest little hole. Shoot for like a foot hole and you have a better chance of hitting that. If you miss your shot, maybe you miss it into the net rather than missing out of the net when you're just shooting for a little bar. So I'm going to say that Skinner is making them change their shots to try to get it past them or rush it, or they're a little bit knuckled. And I'm not talking that Skinner is the Dominic Hasek of 2002, but he is there and he's in their way and they're trying to get it past them a different way. I still think that Dallas can get to the net way harder. I really think they got to get more second chances, rebounds, uncomfortable for Skinner, get to the net more.
And Skinner's just so big. So you're already have smaller windows to begin with. And when they stop, when a goalie's not at his best and they're going through 5, 6s and 7 holes, when they stop going through there, then that's all that's left. So, I mean, props to Stu on that as well. Jameson Dorr said, would love to see Skinner up with McDavid and Nuge. Now we've tried this before, but the thing I would add here, Struddy, is we know that Perry usually won't play the same amount of minutes. When he was the third guy on the nuclear line, they swapped in other guys there from time to time because they're just not giving Perry that much ice time. If that's the same case with the McDavid line, does Skinner at least maybe get a look there on some of the times when they're resting Perry?
My concern of a line with McDavid, Nuge, and Skinner, there's no heavy body. It feels like when Knobloch's building his lines, there's always a heavy body. A Kane, a Draisaitl, a Podkolzin, Arvidsson, Frederick. The list goes on. And Hyman would have been fit underneath that as well. They need a heavy body in every line. So I don't think it's likely we'll see those 3 guys together because for, 2.5 series now, we've seen speed and a heavy body in every line. That is what he wants, and that's what the depth has allowed them to do. Kapanen, another guy who brings speed and heaviness.
Speaking of Kapanen, Joel Lamont said, Cappy will have to become the hit leader. His speed and timing on hits is a recipe for complete mayhem for opposing defenses. Do you think there's anything to is Kapanen maybe the guy who just takes up the mantra, the Zach Hyman mantra in whatever role or whatever amount of ice time he's given?
Well, his ice time's got to go up, right? It's got to go up. So I think he's the guy you're probably looking at. I think Connor Brown is another guy. I mean, Kane gives you, all these different guys, but you don't replace 10 hits with one guy, right? There's, he's had, Hyman had nights at 8, 9, 10. I think he had an 11 a hit night. So you don't do it with one guy. So everyone has to keep chipping in, but it's an attitude the group has. We spent a lot of time this winter talking about the Oilers' lack of physicality. Well, they were saving it for the playoffs because they've been very physical, but not expected for it to come from Hyman. And there it is. It did, but everyone has to do it together.
Scott Thompson, backing up your idea of putting multiple centers, the idea of moving Henrique up. He says multiple centers on a line is a benefit since the GD linesman can't drop the puck without too many arm waving motions. We continue to see so much of that. Hey, Struds, I guess that's always been a line of thinking though about having more than one guy who can take draws on each line, right?
Well, I think that to be careful, I didn't advocate for Henrique to be beside Leon or Connor because he's his third line center. I think you got to have that guy there. But that being said, near the end of the game, in a D zone, you want to have two centers for sure. Like it's not even a question. Like we've seen Leon and Connor, Leon and Henrique, Nuge and Henrique, the first penalty kill. Like they do it. Because you want guys that can take draws. You don't want to have a guy that hasn't taken a draw all year, all of a sudden have it an all-important D-zone face-off with 2 minutes left to go in the playoffs. Like, it doesn't work. So, yes, you do want it, but not all the time. You don't need it all. Like, offensive face-off is as important as a D-zone face-off when you're protecting a lead.
The Dr. Carpy says, if Jeff Skinner is not going to draw in, why did they bring him here? It's time to give him the opportunity to prove his signing was worth it. Do you agree with that? Brownie's been pretty good on. Brownie was the one who said he's not starting the playoffs. He's only played the one game, I think.
One game.
But he's said all along he's going to factor into the playoffs in a meaningful way, and it felt like he's going to score a big goal. Is this his time? And do you agree they have to give him they should give him this shot at this time?
David Darnay was brought in by the Oilers a few years ago, and he scored one big overtime goal, that little guy, and it was great. It was great. Skinner, I think, will have that same moment. He does. I've said it. I believe you got to have 12 and 6. I leave Ekholm on the shelf. I put Skinner in there, and I play the hell out of him. And he's going to be flying around the ice, the energy, fresh legs. He'll bring energy into that dressing room. Especially with Hyman going down. So I think that is the move to do, and he'll have a role to play. I truly believe that. But I do feel really bad for him. You wait your whole life to get into a playoff game, you get one, and you sit out and watch this team go on a run like this. What are they, 12-2 or something, whatever that they're in the last little while.
Okay, two more here. Our buddy Just Steve says, what would it take for us to see Derek Ryan in the playoffs? A few people brought this up last night as well. And what would you expect from him if he got the chance? Certainly he would be there with an emphasis on taking faceoffs, right?
Yes, and penalty kills. He's a known commodity. And he's a name that we didn't really talk about too much as far as getting an opportunity to jump in there. So would he jump in front of Skinner? Would he jump in front of Philp? We jump in front of Tide Max Jones, perhaps. I'm not sure. He hasn't seemed to have been a real option here at all. Although neither is anyone else. They've kind of run the same lineup now. They had injuries. I think if he's going to get in, he's got to get in tomorrow, because if Connor Brown comes back, let's say the game after that, or if they win, they move on to the finals. I think it's hard for him to get back in. I'd love for him to see get in. He's been a good pro for a long time. Love to see him get back in this lineup.
Okay, last one. We didn't mention this name in Conn Smythe talk, although it did come up last night, the odds, how they changed during the game. But Buddy Hope says, how many more shutouts before Skinner is considered for Conn Smythe? How many heads would explode if that happens? Now, Pickard has 6 wins, right? I'm sure it would be the first time ever that a goalie won 10 out of 16 wins in the playoffs and won a Conn Smythe trophy. But I have to tell you, Struddy, I think there is a path to this. And I don't think it even has to be shutouts, but I think it has to be 966 save percentage like he's been putting up I think if he could, they made it to the finals and he outright stole a couple games and they won it, I don't think this is crazy. It would have sounded crazy 4 weeks ago.
What a story. What a story this guy's writing. It's just incredible. It is absolutely incredible. And I'm hoping it happens because it'd be a great story.
Oh my goodness.
Bobrovsky's played pretty well as well.
Yes.
So he'd have to stare down the other team's goalie in the final and be the better goalie. Like clearly better goalie, not tie, not be, we saw this off. I was better than you would have to be not that he'd say that, but that's what Skinner would have to do. Because I think Bobrovsky also has 3 shutouts. I looked quickly last night. So that would be, he'd have to beat that goalie and then no one else on either team would be able to go off. You know, if a player got 12 points in 5 games, like you can't, because that would probably seal that deal for that person. But I think he's in the mix. And what a crazy story that he's in the mix after what we've seen earlier this year.
Yeah, Statue Boss Productions, good point. It says if they're going to beat Florida, that has to be the case anyway. Certainly something to that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's beat Jake Onger right now, right? 2 years in a row. Arguably the second best American-born goalie in the NHL right now, and he's having his way with him. And I think Stu is his save percentage. What did I say last night? It's up over 910, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, for the entire playoff, even
the whole entire playoff,
including the duds. Yes,
which is incredible. Which is now not a big sample size, but still, it is playoff hockey. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us today. That was absolutely awesome. Thank you to you. We love having you on here and getting your thoughts and sharing your insight and your lunchtime with us. Zubes, any final thoughts before we cash off into the night here?
Nope. Fun one. Just at both series at 3-1, there's part of me that's just feeling like let's get on with it. I want to know the matchup. If this rematch is happening, let's get to it. Let's make it happen. That's how I'm feeling right now.
I feel like we're going to see this thing starting, next week, and it'll be the 2 teams that we want to see in the final. Makes it a little bit harder with Zach Hyman. Makes it a little bit harder, everybody. So thank you, Zubie, for all your insight and your help on the show and being a great partner. Thanks to all our sponsors, Weiss Johnson and McDonald's, all of our friends there at Douglas Mattresses. So it's great to have you be a part of it. We're proud of what we do, and we're glad that you're part of it as well. If you like what you hear, tell a friend. Come join us next Wednesday. I hope we're previewing Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals there. So on behalf of Zubie, myself, and all your friends here at Struddy's World, thanks for listening. Another pod with Got Your Back tomorrow, post-game. Can't wait. Talk to everybody then.
So long, everybody.